seen Lazzarini in the media much at all. What I have seen of him, he's spoken very powerfully. It's a difficult one for these people because if they speak up and they sound too sympathetic, the mainstream won't take them at all. And I interviewed the UNRWA heads when I was there, and they've always been, because of the nature of UNRWA, it is more anchored in the Palestinian displacement context. It's just it is anchored uh, axiomatically in Palestinian needs. It is, of course, going to be more sympathetic to the Palestinian plight, and it's going to have that framing and how the Palestinian needs interlace with international power. Um, what I have seen of him, he's spoken very well. Um, I think UNRWA remains, though, a child of the UN, and that is a limiting factor. And, even the centrists now are saying, well, the UN has been sort of, is it even mortally weakened? While Finland talks about the need for reform, but it's a bit like, proportional representation in the UK. Those in power have no incentive to relinquish their power. Um, Now, what can the UN do in as much as it's a democratic body? Everyone with a living memory knows that Israel has committed a genocide. That only but illuminates the occupation of the West Bank, the ongoing apartheid. The South Africa-like momentum is happening, and the language is entering the mainstream. The question is, how long is it going to take? So they could even freeze Israel out from the General Assembly, and I've even heard that talked about as well. These things were not being talked about, let's say, last year or the previous year. So all of that momentum is happening. Israel has effectively delegitimized itself in the eyes of everyone in the world apart from Donald Trump. And eventually these European democracies will be receptive to general strikes, protest, and disobedience. And so it's happening is the shorthand. The question is, how long is it going to take?
Yeah, give UNRWA a lot of credit, especially Philippe Lazzarini, because bombing their schools, they bombed everything, and even on aid, they started weaponizing. Israel was trying to put pressure using this, GHF or whatever it's called, but they remained consistent and they said, no, we will deal with this aid thing. And I really liked his professionalism throughout this.
He spoke up for that international humanitarian tier and those
Yeah.
organizations powerfully. As I mentioned earlier, I wonder to what extent, when things settle, in whichever extent that they settle, whether the Europeans will say, "Look, you're going to have to reinstate UNRWA, otherwise we're going to have to take more meaningful steps." Whether that because Israel has managed to advance on that is to say, get UNRWA out to an extent, whether or not that is something that they will concede in order to try to eternalize the occupation.